Hey guys, Jen here with Serenity Hill Farmstead. Today we're on the farm. As you can see, I'm sitting here on the porch, just really sitting, looking out and thinking about what all needs to be done next, what we need to do to get ready for the next year. We've got a lot of really big changes, which I really want to just sit here and talk to you all about. But I'm going to hold off until things are final because I have talked about things going this way or that way and what direction things are going to take several times. If you've been here for a long time, then you've heard all of that. But, we just don't know. We don't know what God has in store for us. And even though there are some definite things that are happening in the spring here on our farm, I'm not going to share about them quite yet until they're like concrete, done, happening, and we're on our way kind of a thing. So, but here we are going to be getting flooring done, and we're going to get walls up, and we're going to put this education center together, and it's going to be beautiful, and it's going to end up being a large apothecary, and I'm so excited about it. It'll be a wonderful apothecary just for our family, not just for our family, but also for our customers to come and learn, and to learn how to make their own medicine, to purchase things if they want to purchase things. It's just so exciting. I have this vision, when you have a vision in your head and you see how it's finally all kind of coming to fruition. That's where we're at, and it's so exciting. And now that things have, farm season, like gardening season, growing season, it's all behind us for this year for the most part. And now it's just cleaning things up, tucking things in, and moving on to fun projects to get ready for next year. But one of the things I keep thinking back to is just what this apothecary is going to look like. It's going to be so awesome. And I want to talk about that on the home scale, on the family scale, what that looks like for you. If you want to build a home apothecary, how do you do that? How do you get started? Do you just start randomly collecting herbs, or is there a method to that madness? So I'm going to share with you today my process for how I store herbs and how I build my apothecary for my family. Not just the growing and the preserving of what we are doing here, but how I decide how much of what we need. And if I have to purchase something because it doesn't grow in our zone or we don't have enough established yet, how I decide how much we need to get and how I prepare our apothecary to sustain us over winter. So getting into that, I have to say that no two apothecaries are going to look the same. What I have in my apothecary for our family is probably going to be a little different, or maybe very different than what you have for yours. I have seen people that just like to collect all the herbs because they all have a purpose and they all work for different things. So they just keep gathering herbs, but they don't have it organized in a way where they can say, okay, these are all of my herbs for my lungs. These are all of my herbs for my gut. These are all of my herbs for like my musculoskeletal system. And that's how I like to organize mine. Part of it is just kind of like I have that medical brain. I've got that medical background in history and education. So my brain kind of goes there and classifies things, how they work in the body. And that's how I teach you guys. That's how I like to organize everything in my classes, in my courses, in the products that I make. I like everything to be per system. I think there's so much crossover with herbs. Like if you just look at like nettle, okay? Stinging nettle does so many things for your body. It's very nutritive. So that works on building your blood, and it works on nourishing your body so that pertains to your gut. But we don't call it a gut herb. It's an herb that will definitely help the gut. It's an herb that will definitely help your endocrine system. It'll help, building your blood. It'll help, in healing your inflammation, but it's not necessarily just an anti-inflammatory herb. It does so many more things than that. So I know when I am figuring, hey, here's all of the herbs that I need for the gut. Nettle is in there. But when I'm looking at here's all the herbs that I need for the respiratory system, nettle's also in there. So it crosses over so that I know that if these herbs are showing up in more than one place, I'm going to need a significant amount more of that herb. So what I do is I create just, a document in Canva or whatever, and it's very, very simple. It's a sheet of paper, and I have dehydrated herbs, tinctured herbs, teas, tea blends, syrups, oils and salves. So those are the different categories. Those are the things that we use the most. Now, occasionally I'll make an oxymel for something, or I'll have something a little different, and I'll just kind of have that in a miscellaneous category. So when I do make these preparations, that way I've got everything written down and I know how much I have of what. It's just pretty much an inventory sheet. When I'm trying to figure out what exactly we need, I think about the issues that my family has. So we know we have some gut issues. We know with some members, we've got allergy issues with other members. We've got respiratory issues with me and autoimmune issues with me. So I think of everything that we need, everything that we take there, and then I look at any potential new herbs that I might want to work with. And then I will maybe order some of those or grow some of those and we'll work with those. But since they're new, I don't allocate a big space to those brand new herbs. Unless we do have time to work with them, I realize, oh, these are wonderful, I want to have more of that, then we give more space to that. But I really want to make sure that I have a good amount of the ones that are like tried and true. We know we have these working well for us, and that is going to take up the most space in our apothecary. I feel like when, especially if you're new to herbalism, when you are just collecting herbs because, oh, I saw this recipe on TikTok and this just sounds so good for helping me with, I don't know, my hormone balancing or something. Yes, but hormones can be very tricky, and your hormones are different than that lady's hormones on TikTok. And though her blend is working fabulous for her, that may not work for you. So I want to caution you against just finding a recipe and then going all in and getting all of the herbs in bulk because you want to make a ton of them. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with buying herbs in bulk. I think it's a great thing to have a good stock because you can do many different things with them. But when you're trying out new herbs, always try and grab a smaller amount of them first, play with them, spend some time with them, make some things, make your tinctures, make your tea blends, do your decoctions, things that you need to get familiar with because different herbs also work in different avenues. Like elecampane, not something that you want in a tea. It's not where it's really going to shine. You could do it as a decoction and make a syrup. It's great that way. It makes a fabulous cough syrup. But where I feel like it really shines is as a tincture. So I don't buy tons and tons and tons of elecampane. Well, we grow elecampane, but if I need to purchase more, which I do sometimes, I will not purchase it in massive amounts because I'm going to tincture it. So I only need 1 part of dried elecampane if I'm going to be working with dried elecampane. Of course, we prefer fresh root here, but if I'm going to be working with dried elecampane, I only need 1 part of that dried elecampane for the 5 parts of vodka that I'm going to be putting in a half-gallon jar because that's the ratio that I work at. So I hope that makes sense. It's important to gauge, like, don't buy tons and tons of herbs when you're not experienced with them yet. It would definitely benefit you to go slow and to just get them a few at a time, work with them, and then move forward from there. It is way less overwhelming that way. If you're someone that you've got the bandwidth for that and you can go get all of the herbs and learn about them all simultaneously and do that, go for it. More power to you. Build that apothecary hard and fast. That's great. But there is absolutely no shame in going slow and steady and just learning as you go. That's how I started with herbalism. We got exposed to some things, some respiratory herbs, and we're like, this could work. Let's do a little more of this. Also, and somebody else in our family was having major gut issues. So we started working with those, and then it just built from there. So the root of everything in our family was gut herbs and lung herbs. And from there, it just kind of grew, and I've learned from doing that. So it is a time commitment, and it's a process. And it's okay to learn some and then step back from it, and then learn some more and step back from it. And that's okay. This isn't something that needs to be a whole lifestyle change. It's not this big overhaul where you're leaving conventional medicine and everything modern behind, and you're going back to the 1800s where all we used is herbs because it's all that was available. That's not my goal with herbalism, and I really hope that's not your goal too, because I think that's putting unrealistic expectations on these herbs. I recently talked about in the live that we actually just did yesterday, that there should be a balance between conventional medicine and herbalism. If you are putting 100% of your eggs in either basket, it's going to fail. There's virtually nothing that you can do with conventional medicine that is going to heal you 100%. Conventional medicine really shines with the acute illnesses and injuries. Okay, they're the people that you want when you are having an emergency. You need them to be able to help you. You cannot use herbs if you are having a heart attack to stop your heart attack. You cannot use herbs to open your lungs like that if you are having an acute asthma attack. There is not a single herb out there that's going to fix that emergent situation. You need to have modern medicine. Now, I'm talking about severe stuff. I'm not talking about like, okay, my asthma is kicking in, or maybe like I took a breath into the campfire and like it's really, really affecting me. I'm getting a little short of breath. We're going to go have some tea. We're going to go do some inhalations. Yeah, it will help. But I'm talking like an acute asthmatic exacerbation. I'm talking about an actual asthma attack. That is inflammation that is closing your airways, and the only thing that is going to get it open is albuterol and steroids now. That's the only thing that is going to help. But after that, then what? Then what are you going to do? You don't want to just wait for the next thing to happen. You want to be able to build an apothecary so that you can work on your wellness. You can work on your health, and you can build your lungs, or whatever system you're working on. We're just talking about lungs now. You can build your lungs and you can tone them so that the next time you get triggered and you have that asthma attack, it's not as severe. Maybe you don't need to seek out medical intervention. Maybe with everything that you have and the tools in your toolbox, both your pharmaceuticals and your herbs, you can manage it on your own. You don't have to seek out the emergency room. That's what we're hoping for. We're hoping for being able to manage underlying medical conditions and being able to strengthen your system so that you can manage things yourself. So when you're talking about building your apothecary, you need to look at those kinds of things. You need to look at what is your goal with your wellness and what kinds of underlying medical issues do you have and how are you going to get there? How are you going to use your herbs, use your pharmaceuticals together to help improve your wellness and get yourself healing? So really just evaluate your family and your needs, and then you can go from there. You can decide what herbs you need to look into, what herbs you want to learn more about. There's different classifications that you can learn more about. If you, for example, if you are someone that has a really hard time with the change of seasons, that's the time you get sick, like the change from summer to fall or fall to winter or winter to spring, and you start really having you're getting sick all the time, or you're having real big swings in your mood and with depression, and your hormones seem to be all out of whack during that time, you want to look at adaptogenic herbs. Adaptogenics really help support the system, and that's definitely something you should be including in your apothecary. So now we've talked about figuring out what herbs you're going to need in your apothecary. Now we need to talk about ways to store them and prepare them. So when you're storing your herbs, always very important that you are not just getting them and, they come in a bag and you're just leaving them in that bag for a couple reasons. One, sometimes the packaging that they're sent in is not really up to par with long-term storage. Now there's some companies that do send them in Mylar, and that's meant for long-term storage. They're puncture resistant and they last a long time. And then there's other companies that send them in paper bags. And while that's okay for the short term, it's not something that I would want my herbs to be in for an extended period of time, meaning really any more than a couple weeks, for a few reasons. Number one is moisture. That is my biggest consideration. And your biggest considerations are going to be different, based on your location and in your situations. But for us, we live in a very old farmhouse. Our house was built in the late 1800s. It very much changes with the seasons, and the amount of moisture that is in our house is definitely impacted by the seasons. So if I'm going to be ordering herbs and it's late summer and I know that I am not going to have enough of a specific herb, so I want to go ahead and order it while the small herb farm that I like to order from has it in stock, I want to go ahead and order it then. Number one, it's the freshest. Number two, it's in stock and I can get whatever I need to get before everybody else clamors to go get it and then it's gone. If this stuff comes in paper bags in late summer, the humidity is at its highest in my house at that time. So if anything gets in there, it's gonna ruin all of my herbs. So I immediately, when I get things, I pack them into glass jars. That is my preferred way. If I have something that I have a lot of, and that's usually herbs that we produce, I put them in Mylar and I store them that way. I still will not put them in our basement. They absolutely have to be stored on our first floor. I cannot store them anywhere where moisture is a concern at all. Guys, even like the tiniest little speck of water is enough to destroy your entire crop. So you really want to make sure that whatever method you choose to store your herbs in, it is watertight. The other thing you need to watch for is light. When you are storing your herbs, it needs to be in a dark place also. Now, this does not need to be pitch black. You don't need to make sure you've got blackout curtains or they're deep in the back of your refrigerator or your pantry and you're taking up all your precious pantry space on all of these bulk herbs. Not what you have to do. I know people that store them under the bed. I know people that store them in their closet. I know people like me that have, like, I've got my floor to ceiling apothecary. You guys see that all the time. And that there's windows all over. But the big thing is that light doesn't touch it. So I never, ever, ever have direct light directly hitting my apothecary. That's very important because sunlight with dried herbs, it's going to break them down. Sun is your friend while you're growing. As soon as you harvest, it is no longer your friend. You need to get it out of there. So we've gone over trying to figure out what herbs you're going to need to build your apothecary, how much you're going to need, how to store them. And then the last thing I want to talk about is preparations, because when you are preserving your herbs, how you are preparing them counts as a preservation type. So if you're making a tincture, you're also preserving that herb because we know tinctures last a long, long time. But there's also other preparations. So if you're making salves are also a preservation method. If you are making an oil, that is also a preservation method. So dehydrated herbs by themselves, I personally don't use them past a year. We always run out before a year because it's a regular part of our lives. But if you have just dried bulk herbs sitting on your apothecary shelf for more than a year, it's time to compost that and to replace it. You don't want anything that's, even for culinary purposes, that's older than a year because it just doesn't taste good. It doesn't have the full medicinal function of it. So it's not something, why would you keep it? If it's not going to serve you well, then why would you keep it? Just get rid of it and get new stuff in there. So look at your preparations, decide what preparations you want, and then you have to figure out how long things are going to last as in their prepared state. So salves, I would say 6 months to a year, depending on how you're storing them. And then you can also do glycerites. So that's the same kind of idea where you're making an extract, except you're making it with glycerin, not with vodka. That's a glycerite. You can make infused herbal oil. That's a fabulous way. And then to have all of that infused oil, that's probably my third most used thing is herbal oil. Just within our family, I make a ton of it because it is the key ingredient in our soap, but it is so versatile. You can just use it as, a base for your lotions, for your skin. You can just put it right on in your skincare routine. That's part of my skincare routine, is just using herbal oils straight on my face. It's wonderful. But herbal oils will last you about 6 months if they're just out on the shelf. You know when herbal oils go bad though. It's very clear because they go rancid and it smells horrible. So when that happens, it'll be very, very obvious. Oxymels and syrups are another way that you can preserve. Those are also going to last you about 6 months or so. So that right there, my friends, is all of my beginner advice on how to build an apothecary. Make sure you have good space that is definitely away from light and extreme temperatures. Make sure it's cool, dry, dark place to store your herbs. Make sure you've got good containers, airtight containers for them. Make sure you're getting herbs that are meeting your family's needs, and make sure you're using the preparations that you are going to use. Don't make elderberry syrup if you don't like it. We don't ever make elderberry syrup, ever, because there's other applications that work better for our family. Herbalism is very much an individual experience, even within your family. There could be, 5 members of your family that all take herbs 5 different ways. It just depends on the people. And I think that's part of the fun of it too, is just the journey of figuring these things out and learning them. And once you figure them out, it's super rewarding. It's super rewarding to put the work in and do the research and the education and play in the kitchen and find all of these wonderful preparations out, how they work for you. And then when something works like amazingly well, like the first time I took Elecampane tincture, and it just, for me, it immediately works. And with the next cough, everything was so much clearer, and I went, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is amazing. And now I never take that for granted, being able to cough and clear that up and being able to breathe. So having the right herbal medicines in your apothecary for your family make all the difference. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you found it helpful and informative and educational and just fun, all the things, right? If you want to learn more about this, you definitely want to stay tuned for the next video where I will be showing you my entire apothecary. Now, this is the apothecary that runs our business also, so you're going to see all of it, and I'm going to talk about how I run it and how I manage something on that scale. And it's just really cool to see somebody's floor to ceiling apothecary and how they do all those things, right? So I'm going to have all that to share with you. So definitely hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can get notified when that comes out, because you're not going to want to miss it. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.